All right, welcome to the Food Professor podcast presented by Caddle, season 6 debut episode. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
In this first episode of season 6, we are sans guest. We're going to catch up on what happened during a very busy summer. We were talking off mic about how much news and things are happening. We almost said we should have come back early. Maybe we will next year. But anyway, we had lots of great summer bonus episodes. They are very popular. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Wonderful to, some of them were very fresh and it was fun to listen to them again. Now, we'll be watching those people for their and how they proceed with their businesses. Sylvain, how was your summer?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Now, if you're a farmer, you were looking for moisture for sure, especially in the eastern part of the country and some parts of Western Canada. But as a biker, oh my God, heaven!
Hot though, wasn't it? It was really hot though, right?
The thing about biking is that it's never hot unless you stop.
Right? You always got to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. You're in trouble. But honestly, it was a great summer. Had a chance to visit with family and friends.
Fantastic.
Actually, family members that I haven't seen in we're talking 25, 30 years.
It's great.
So, because I've been out of the province and it was great and everyone's healthy. My oldest daughter just moved into an apartment in Montreal. She's starting school this week at McGill, which is where I am personally. I'm a visiting scholar at McGill for this year. So looking forward to a nice fall and winter for sure.
Well, fantastic. Now, you typically spend time at your cottage. Did you go anywhere abroad for a vacation or anywhere in this great nation of ours? What did you do?
No, well, I travel a lot during the summer, during the academic year. So I basically decided to, we visited family and friends basically, and we do travel quite a bit. Our family's spread out all over the province, and Quebec is it's a pretty big place. So I know you've been traveling yourself, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually I was in New York midsummer for the Remarkable Retail podcast on the hottest day in 5 years in New York. You
love New York. You love New York. You don't care.
Man,
you didn't care.
I had not I've been to Vegas when it's in the 45s. I've been everywhere, but New York's both a little bit humid and there's nowhere for the heat to go. Fun story. We were taking a bunch of folks out for dinner and we went to this amazing Thai place, Michelin ranked Thai place, and wonderful people. And just as we went in, it was actually hotter in the restaurant. Their air conditioning had broken.
Oh.
So it was a very authentic Thai experience. But I can tell you, if anybody wants to go and have the best Thai food I've ever had anywhere, it was in Hell's Kitchen on 9th Avenue. So it was good. And then I went to La Belle Provence. My wife and I wanted to spend a long weekend.
I saw that. Yes. For your anniversary, correct?
For our anniversary, birthdays, they all kind of come together. So we always do some little thing. And neither of us have been to Quebec City since our 20s, like a long time. Yeah, we really had,
God.
I really don't have any reason to go, but what a great city. It was just so fun. Great food scene. Like the food scene, spectacular. And look what I brought home. Red fish and spicy oil cans. I found all kinds of stuff from, what is it? Pulled from the St. Lawrence River or wherever, maybe. Anyway, we did a boat cruise. What a wonderful city to be there in the summer.
A boat cruise. Wow, you did the Total. The Total.
We did that. We took a little ferry over to little ferry from the dock over to Levi's, and we had some great poutine by the water.
It's Levi, but that's okay, Levi's, because we're not talking about jeans here. It's the city.
I went to Levi. And they were
ate poutine,
and we ate poutine, and it was really good. We said we got to. My wife is like, I'm not a big heavy food eater, but let's try it. And it was wonderful. It was very delicious.
Fun fact for you: in Lévis is where Alphonse Desjardins was born, and Alphonse Desjardins founded Desjardins, which is a huge co-op, a credit union.
Yes,
based out of Quebec, and they're known to support farmers quite a bit in Eastern Canada. So, fun fact for you about Lévis.
Well, if the quality of the food and experience I had in the restaurants there are any indication, Quebec agriculture is doing great because I always drank wine from Quebec. I'm not going there to drink French wine or wine from anywhere else. So I had a great wine from your hometown.
Wine from Quebec?
Oh, really? Great fresh wine from your hometown, and it was just delicious. So anyway, kudos to everybody. Go to Quebec City.
For the record, Farnham was not winemaking was not a winemaking region when I left
Right.
Farnham in 1987. So things have changed there too.
Well, I had a nice white from Farnham, and if anybody's listening to this pod, not if anybody, but anybody's listening to this pod and wants to go experience a great city, go to Quebec for a long weekend. It's fantastic. Anyway,
That's great.
Now, speaking of school and you being at McGill, you're on strike on Grieve. You're on strike, right? So, like, how's the picket line? Are you singing the song?
It's official. Okay, go ahead. I mean, it's officially a lockout, not a strike.
Okay.
Just so you know. Yeah, we've been locked out.
You've been locked out.
Bad boys.
So all the professors, school, we're talking this week. School may or may not start next week. And now that has one thing that everyone needs to know. You've sent out a couple of emails. You have no access to your email and calendars,
nothing.
right? Nothing.
And frankly, I think that made a lot of people upset because we were warned, we were told that we wouldn't have access to email, but we weren't told that our auto replies would be basically would not function anymore, and transfer emails as well. So I had all that set up just in case something happened. And on Wednesday morning last week, boom. Nothing worked. And so if you're trying to reach me, you can't. And you would know that I'm not getting emails either. So there you go. This is the chaos that I've been dealing with the last 7 days. A lot of fun. I mean, listen, we can argue all day about who's right, who's wrong, and all that. I feel for our parents. I feel for the students. Kids are coming back next week, and I'm just hoping that we'll have a university for them. That's all I need to say, really.
And does this labor labor lockout, does this affect your work at McGill, or does that continue different province? So I guess, but you're visiting scholar at McGill, right? So talk a little bit about that. You're not on the main campus. You were saying you're on an ag campus close by. Talk about what you'll be doing there.
Yeah, so McGill's ag campus is in Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue, which is about 30 kilometers west of main campus, downtown Montreal. And so I'll be affiliated with the Department of Food Science. So I have many colleagues there that I've worked with over the years. So I'll be joining them. In fact, I'll be with them on Tuesday of next week, and I'll be guest lecturing in some classes. I'll be keynoting their research day in October. Nice. And so, I mean, of course, I'll be traveling because I have other projects going on. I'll be visiting, I think, 4 countries just in the fall. And so if I'm not traveling, I'll be at McGill. And of course, probably I'll be doing some work with some colleagues at the business school downtown as well. And I'll be guest lecturing there too. Because Carl Boutet, who you know very well, we met this summer. Talked about some possibilities there. So and I may actually run into my own daughter who's actually taking some courses there.
That's fun. Now you're also, as we think about the season ahead, you'll be here in town. We'll be together for the coffee conference, the Canadian Coffee Conference. We're looking forward to that. We got an exclusive interview the day before. I won't say who, but we've got a fantastic interview.
Big name. Yeah.
And lots of great interviews lined up. We've already done one, actually. So we're already in the groove. We're just interviewing the most interesting people. So it's going to be a great season. And
can't believe it's season 6 already.
It's really great. I mean, it's been really great. And the numbers have been strong. And so thank you, everybody. Now, one thing that we should mention that is new, we've always had a YouTube page. But this year, if you want to see what Sylvain and I actually look like during the show, we're going to actually put the entire show up on the YouTube page.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can actually, and YouTube's becoming such a big powerhouse in one way, shape, or another in podcasting. So we want to be there for you. I don't know if you want to stare at us talking to each other, but anyway, you can now.
Yeah.
You're more handsome, so you're the good looking fella. So, we'll set that up.
Well, I mean, I think you've lost some weight this summer, didn't you?
Well, I got my little landscaping side hustle going.
There you go. There you go. Handsome Michael.
That's it. All right. Well, let's kick in. Let's talk about what's been going on. Let's you posted a bunch of stuff, as you said, during the summer. I got a couple of questions about a couple of things that you posted. I will get to that. But let's start with this, what's happening right now. Couple of things that I wanted to start with. Very timely. Tomorrow, Let's talk about elbows down. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
reversal of the countervailing tariffs. Elbows down. You framed that, and you've been not very long a proponent of not doing that onto food, and we can talk about why for a whole bunch of reasons. But you see this as a positive step for something that may or may not have had a moment, may or may not have been useful, but maybe it never should have been done in the food sector. Talk about it.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, Michael, but on Friday of last week, when Prime Minister Carney announced that Ottawa was ending retaliatory counter tariffs against the U.S., I first of all I felt relieved, and two, for the first time in many years, I saw a prime minister making economic sense. To be because I mean, at the end of the day, counter tariffs are a tax on on your own people. I mean, you will apply counter tariffs to protect a domestic industry or to punish
Mm-hmm.
a trading partner. Ottawa did neither really, and because we're talking about the U.S. here, we're not talking about like a smaller country. The U.S. is 25% of the world economy, so you kind of have to get along with the U.S. and make sure that you work with the U.S. And I was always of the mind that food was a very precious thing to protect, and if you start taxing food, you basically hurt Canadians, and the July numbers last week really told that story. You could see that really food inflation started to go up again, 3.4%, a delta of 1.7% versus general inflation. It became a problem. And the way I saw it is that if we continued on the same path, we would have seen food inflation becoming more of an issue in August, September, and October while students are in school. So I was very relieved to hear the prime minister finally deciding to do the right thing for the food industry. And frankly, what I'm really upset about, Michael, to be honest, is how politicians and I would say some economists have actually minimized the impact of counter tariffs, saying,
And you know who
"Well,
you are. One particular economist. You know who you are if you're listening.
I know." I mean, listen. The thing is, this is what our audience need to understand. If you're out there avoiding American products, fine, that's your business. But as you retire options from the market, or if you make some options more expensive through counter tariffs, you eventually impact the whole thing, the entire aisle, the entire store, because you raise the bar. It's like the tide. You know, if you actually make one product more expensive, others will follow because people look at deltas, they look at margins, they look at differences between prices. And so that's why I was always concerned about counter tariffs. And so Ottawa made the right call last week, and I do believe that we will start seeing prices drop by, I'd say, end of September, early October.
It'll take
And guess
time.
who?
Yeah, it's going to take
And
time.
guess who's on record as of Friday saying to everyone that prices will drop in his stores? Per Bank, CEO of
Hmm.
Loblaw.
Yeah, first one to use the T to identify the tariffs. I mean, I'm sure the retailers are like, okay, now we got to do more admin stuff and reverse it. But and deals have been made, and it will, as you say, take time. But from that perspective, it's a positive move, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And frankly, I do think that Mark Carney was dealing with a pickle. I mean, no pun, but
We'll get to
really,
that, by the way. We'll get to that.
yes.
That's one of my
But
questions for you.
I believe
Hmm.
that he understood how difficult uh, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's legacy was to deal with,
You
and
know,
so
there's a school of thought. I was curious if you at all kind of vibe to this, as the kids would say, that during the time we put countervailing tariffs on, there was many nations, not just us, who were considering doing the same thing. You had Liberation Day; it was just crazy. But then all the other nations, Britain, whoever, didn't follow through on countervailing tariffs, so we were kind
except
of left
China,
on our own, except
except China,
China, right? But we were, there are
and
notable
China's
exceptions.
number two in the world.
So if everybody else would have started doing countervailing tariffs, these might be seen in a different context. But us alone against America didn't seem to make sense in the summer,
No,
right?
that's
Just
why
us.
I've said this on this show many times, especially in the spring, is that I think Canada, when it comes to geopolitics, is clueless. But like like I said, for the first time, I honestly, here's what I think happened.
Hmm.
Over the last couple of weeks, we saw the U.S. ambassador to Canada stating clearly that Canada was in breach of CUSMA.
Hmm.
And we're the ones advocating for CUSMA. We love it. It's our shield, right? And if we're seen as delinquents, well, Americans could argue, why are you arguing in favor of CUSMA? Because you're not
Hmm.
even following rules that you've agreed to. So why care about CUSMA? And I think in Ottawa, people started to panic, and they had to make some sort of decision, which is why on Friday we saw the Prime Minister do what he did.
Well, it's a good segue to my next question, which is this whole idea, the concept of de minimis. Now, who knew? I've been dealing with de minimis for many, many years. This
Yeah,
Latin
you
term.
you've done that as well, yeah, because you've shipped
Yeah.
stuff all over the world, yeah.
Well, I mean, and part as Retail Council of Canada, we were very advocates of there was a lot of forces that wanted the de minimis raised to this ridiculous level that it was in the States. We
Yeah.
were saying you should open your markets. We said fundamentally it created an unlevel playing field. Why should in this case, why should Canadian retailers not pay tax and others should? Now, the Americans have announced globally that they are eliminating de minimis. Now, my sense of that is they are focused on the Temu and the Shein, who are just importing hundreds and hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of items.
probably, yeah.
Now, we should talk about the collateral damage to Canada, the Canada food system. Now, I read an interesting stat reflecting on your concerns about the elimination of de minimis was on the food industry, that you're fine as long as you're CUSMA compliant,
That's right.
but it was a pretty low number. Now, I just saw some stats. I just sent them to you that apparently we were like 56% of goods were CUSMA compliant. Now we're 81%. So everybody raced to get their goods CUSMA compliant now that they don't have the $800 de minimis.
Mhm.
What's your assessment? A two-part question. What's your assessment of the situation for the food industry? And second, you did have some prescription for what we should do that I was a little confused about. But first of all, what's your assessment and what kind of damage or what kind of impact is this elimination of de minimis in for the world, not just us, shipping to
Yep.
the U.S. for our industry?
Well, we do trade a lot with the US, so this will impact us a little bit more than with others, especially when it comes to food, but,
More in containers though. Like my sense was, it doesn't apply to it's $800, but you're thinking even at the
no,
small
but
level.
we do trade shows, we do a lot of stuff, samplings, small, and we have to think about the small and medium-sized businesses out there that do deal with the US. I mean, those are the ones being impacted here. My concern is that why aren't we hearing more about this? I mean, don't you think that I mean, you've been involved with retail for a while, and a lot of companies that are part of RCC have cared and needed de minimis. And so, what's your take on all this? Do you think it's a non-issue?
Oh, I don't think it's a non-issue. It's an issue mostly for independent retailers or
Yeah, that's
independent
right.
smallers, right? So
Exactly.
there's a lot of
Specialty
indies.
stores
Yeah, not even I talked to a couple of them who had 40-50% of their business shipping to the
to the
US
US.
thanks from Canada. They had a unique item. And they
And
said
the
two things.
dollar's cheap, let's be honest.
Yeah, they love their American customers. Now that they have two problems. One is now everything's taxed, so suddenly the rate goes from, I'm going to make up some numbers that are dimensionally correct, $30 to an $80 cost. So that's not going to work for their American customers. And the second is the
Especially when it comes
paperwork.
to food. Yeah.
The second is the paperwork.
Yeah.
So the de minimis means you don't have to. The de minimis rationale, if no one, for those who aren't aware, is that there's some things that should let cross the border because it's more time and expense to handle the paperwork of making it happen, right?
Yep.
So, that little thing, but now it became $800 in America. Now, a lot of Canadian businesses took
It's a
advantage
lot
of
more
that.
work than before as of August 30th.
For
Yeah.
some, it makes it not even viable. Now you got to get a broker on the US. Like it's not just a little
Yep.
filling out a couple of forms. And I don't know if you saw in the news,
I
but
don't know if you've dealt with custom brokers, but they're not cheap.
Well, I have, and I don't know if you saw in the news, but all the European shippers are stopping all shipments to America because this third issue or second issue is that the rules aren't even in place yet from America on how to do this stuff, right? There's no
Yeah.
systems in place. So it's a bit of anarchy, as these days it often is in U.S. trade
Yeah.
issues. But I think the big people who suffer are going to be, as you rightly say, the indies, and they've got to get they're out, I suppose, which is what I wanted your perspective on. They got to get CUSMA compliant, or
Yeah.
USMC compliant, right? But I understand that takes time and money, but I'm not sure I see any other option for them.
No. It's the only option to get around, and
At least
so
we
it
have one. At least we have one because that doesn't exist in France or
That's true.
England.
That's true. So we can take advantage of our trade deal, and frankly, as of Friday last week, we've increased our chances to renew that deal. So it's
We'll see.
certainly good
We'll see.
news. But it's just it's the other thing, of course, is coming into Canada, and this is the question I'm asking you.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so the threshold is 150, and going to the US, it says 100.
Yes. It's a
The
little
diff
lower, a little higher, depending on how you ship it. But yes,
Yeah, exactly. So shouldn't we actually review this or change our position on the 150 at all?
to zero, sure, but not to like the problem is, and it's like a whole other podcast. Once the 800 is a crazy number because it penalizes anyone in Canada. Now they're like, if you want to eliminate all tax and all GST payments for Canadian retailers as well, great. But if you don't, it creates a fundamentally unlevel playing field, and you advantage another country. Like, not just make it equal; it's a disadvantage in the current, now even more so, circumstance. Right? You've got to take in its size, and all the provinces are like, I don't know, I'm not giving up my provincial tax. So it
Mm,
becomes a very complicated issue. If the question is, do we go to 0 too? Then
mhm.
fine, we go to 0 too. Now the problem is a lot of the indies suffer from that because they buy parts and specialty parts and
Exactly.
things from the US that they take advantage of the 150 de minimis and the market. So de minimis exists for a reason, right? It is
To simplify trades.
to simplify trade at a independent level for
Yeah.
independent business. So there should be some level of de
But
minimis.
I agree with you, Michael. I think because I don't think that the Americans will change their minds on this issue. So might as well make it equal
Right.
on both sides.
Now let's talk about trade. So I wanted you've made some you've said this before. Okay, so if we're going to reduce and eliminate things like de minimis, should we, a thorn in our side, this is a long theme of ours, is how do we develop better relations with other markets like China and India? So India is interesting, of course, because India is, as I think as of today, is getting penalized like 50% by the Americans.
Oh
So
yes,
we'll see how that sorts out. That might
that's
pivot
the
them.
highest percentage in that region.
So that may pivot them to us, actually.
Well,
Crazy world,
this
but
is when I saw the 50%, I mean, this could be good and bad for Canada. I
okay.
mean, we could
Say
actually
more.
be that platform for India going into the US. That's one thing. But when you think
They
about
call that trans-shipping, by the way. There's a lot of trans-shipping fraud going on, by the way, I hear.
yeah,
Like, I'll ship something out of China or Vietnam to somewhere else, let it park it for a while, paint it gray. Suddenly it becomes like the Americans are onto that. So,
yeah,
I mean, how
exactly.
much do we buy from India? Like, I guess I was saying notionally that we'd have better relations in some way, shape, or form with India because they're like, okay, the Americans don't want our stuff, but they don't really send a lot of stuff to us. We
Well, the one thing that we
in
need to keep in
food.
mind, a couple of
Mm.
things. So at Farmgate, pulses, okay? So if you look at pulse prices today, they're being hit hard. So prices are lower because of what's going on. That can
Oh,
actually
interesting.
affect Canadian farmers in Canada
Okay.
because they're selling, right?
Okay.
And so that's one part that I'm concerned about. Seafood is the other one, and so this is the transshipping part that you're mentioning. I do think that we could see more seafood coming from India into Canada to be exported into the US eventually because of that. And
Mm.
the rice issue is a big one
Yeah.
for India. Again, it could impact rice prices, could get cheaper here, as long as we don't tariff anything. But the Americans could actually would want perhaps some rice from India, and against transshipping could be a good option for them. So those are the three things that I'm thinking
Interesting.
about that could
Okay.
actually impact Canada directly or indirectly.
And by the way, to the listeners, we're going to have the president of Dainty Rice,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
he's going to be on the podcast. We're going to talk rice. We're going to get
And,
down
and by the way, I mean, the
and
fact that India could actually use Canada for seafood could actually squeeze our own harvesters, by the way, just so you know. That's the thing that concerns me. And I'm sure that people in the Atlantic are concerned about that.
All right, so let's talk about China. So one of the things you mentioned or discussed, China over the summer has put some tariffs on canola. They already had tariffs on lobster. Is in that spirit of reciprocal
And pork.
tariffs and pork. But the canola is newest, I guess, to our listeners for the summer, to us, right?
Yeah,
Most
well,
recent,
there was an additional 75.8% based on accusations of dumping,
right?
which obviously is not founded because, well, grains are traded on international markets, and frankly, it's almost impossible to dump canola. You would actually have to ask farmers here in Canada to sell canola at a loss. I don't think that's happening at all. So you could tell that something else is going on here.
So, in one view, and there's lots of things we have trade disputes with on China, not just electronic vehicles, but they took a fence that are, so to speak, a fence that are putting 100% tariff on their EVs, which was in lockstep with the American strategy. And you say maybe we should look at removing that. There's some positives to that, lots of more EVs that are a lot more
Well, I
affordable.
didn't
But
say we should look into removing them. I said we should remove them.
but okay, so my question: aren't you worried about in the series of taking off irritants against America that America would take some pretty severe steps? Because I think in CUSMA, there is some stuff in particular sections that say, you should be in lockstep with us from an international trade perspective. And, neither of us are trade lawyers. We'd need Mark for that. But anyway, just notionally, on the one hand, you're saying it's good to remove countervailing tariffs to smooth out relations. Now, don't you think this would make them more choppy with America?
Well, listen, we're talking about geopolitics here. And obviously, when we talk about Ottawa and how it handles its trade policies, I think we're all entitled to get a little bit nervous. So, I mean, these things need to be handled delicately. And so I certainly appreciate the fact that we've committed to handling this in sync with the US.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is that we're trying to build an industry that barely exists in Canada, and we're actually investing close to $50 billion if you include provinces and the federal government into this EV industry to sell what I would consider to
Eastern Canada industry, by the
in
way, to
Eastern
be clear.
Canada to sell what I actually believe to be very, very expensive EVs. And EVs exist, in my view, to do one thing is to actually reduce our carbon footprint as a society. Because, I mean, cars do emit a lot of carbon dioxide. So I do value that effort. Wouldn't you want to make EVs as affordable as possible so people can actually have access to an EV in the first place? Because I don't see how Quebec and Ontario can produce an EV under $50,000. I
It
just don't. Unless you see it, I don't see it.
You and I are 100% aligned on this. I don't think we'll ever be competitive
So I'll
producing
I'll, I'll
EVs.
borrow. I'll steal one of Professor's Ian Lee idea is to kind of segment the market into two: the expensive EVs and the affordable EVs. So why don't you actually apply a tariff on EVs of over, say, $35,000?
Hmm.
And so China has access to our market, and we can actually
Interesting.
still allow our manufacturers here to have access to our market, and let the market decide what it wants as an EV. That's what I would say. And frankly, I've always been uncomfortable allowing governments to make decisions for me as a consumer.
Hmm.
Let consumers decide. If they want a cheap EV from China, so be it, but it'll be cheap. But if they want to actually support manufacturing jobs in Canada, in Eastern Canada, and buy an expensive EV, power to them. That's great. Give them a choice. So that's my starting point with EVs. And again, I'm not an expert in EVs at all. I'm not even close. But I do see a big country, China, weaponizing what's happening with EVs to hurt our farmers. And I have a problem with that.
Are you worried about, and we're starting to see it a little bit, Scott Moe is off in China, Carney's off in Europe. He asked Carney to come with him because this is pretty important to our our citizens in the West. Are you seeing a bias come through for Eastern Canada? There's almost no cabinet ministers that I know of from Western Canada, so it's a
Yeah.
heavily Eastern Canada, Quebec based cabinet. I mean, you've got Mr. Pain Sponge, our finance minister, who just takes the pain and makes announcements about removing digital taxes.
Yeah, no,
uh,
absolutely. And you see it on social media. I mean, I actually did comment quite openly about China and EVs, and agree with Premier Scott Moe. And
yeah,
the comments that you get from Eastern Canada, we do not want Chinese EVs. Well, first of all, who's we?
who's the we in that sentence? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So, and secondly, I think it's time. And what the irony of China's accusations around dumping is that they're accusing Ottawa to overly support canola growers in Canada. That too much. They're
Yeah,
actually giving too much money to canola growers. How ridiculous of an accusation is that?
as they
You
get
know,
ignored,
they're not
routinely.
getting
Yeah,
1 cent. They're not
yeah,
getting any acknowledgement whatsoever. And of
yeah,
course, Prime Minister Carney finally, about 2 weeks ago, did say, "Well, we need to deal with this issue." So thankfully, he did acknowledge the problem. But we got the canola situation, we got the pork situation, of course. And by the way, pork in Ontario and Quebec, those are big
yeah.
sectors. And
Big
of course,
sector.
you have the harvesters down east that are struggling to sell lobsters to China. So I actually do think that, you know, Prime Minister Carney doesn't have the right cabinet to support agriculture, I don't think.
Mm.
But Cody Blois is in the PMO now.
Oh, I
I
didn't
think,
know that.
yes, he's in the PMO. So he was appointed over the summer, and he knows agriculture. He understands how critical this is. And so
And for those
hopefully,
for those listeners who don't know, he was interim, I guess they called him,
yeah,
ag
just before
minister,
the election.
just before the election. He joined us on our short-lived Chorus radio station, which was a lot of fun, our
Yeah,
radio show, and he was a great interview and
yeah.
very knowledgeable. And
Yeah.
even though I think he is an East Coaster, he does take a more national view
Oh,
than
so
others.
he was chair of the ag committee for many years. So he's heard it all from everyone across the country. He understands all the flies, including canola and China. So I do think that Cody Blois right now is hearing a lot from different trade groups, including the wheat growers that we actually interviewed
Right.
for the chorus radio show as well.
Yep. And I guess on the other positive news is we have the official leader of the official opposition is now a Western MP.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Exactly.
I think we need more West. We need more West
Exactly.
representation.
So I do think this is really the one solution. It's a compromise. You don't want to alienate the Americans, but
Mhm.
at the same time, we need to deal with this issue with China. We've been fighting with them since 2018, starting with the Huawei incident in Vancouver. I
which
mean,
which
and
again was initiated by the Americans.
it was initiated by the Americans as well. And so geopolitically, I think you need to make phone calls to Washington while you're dealing with Beijing as well.
All right. Well, let's take a brief time out. We're well into the podcast, actually, to hear from our friends at Caddle, who continue to sponsor us in season 6. We'll have Ransom on the podcast. He's got some great stuff going on. But let's hear from them for a minute. All right, we're back for the last couple of minutes. Now, I want to talk about, your Chicken Little notes about chocolate bars and Bix pickles. So I was a little confused about this. Because you're like, oh my God, the dairy milk chocolate bar is going away. It's a big problem. And I'm literally reading that when I was looking at like 100 different great chocolate bars on the shelf. So it didn't seem to me that there was a lot of choice problem. And then in Bix pickles, shelves are filled with great Putters pickles. Remember the guys from Putters? We interviewed them.
I did plug Putters quite a bit this summer.
That's good. I mean, it's funny. People don't know they're Canadian, but they're using up all the cucumbers, and they're going to use them. So if Bix goes away, free market.
But the Bix, the Bix situation, the Bix case study is really intriguing because the pickles, the cucumbers, are Canadian. So they go to the U.S.
Now they decided, just track this back. They decided to exit Bix, decided to exit the Canadian market.
Yeah. So Smucker's bought the plant in Scarborough in 2011.
Okay.
Soon after, they actually closed it, moved it to the U.S. And of course, it was bought by a new company in 2024, Treetop, I believe. But they've actually promised, they've continued to buy Canadian pickles, Canadian cucumbers throughout the process. And so they were sent to the U.S., manufactured in the U.S. And when they got sent back to Canada, well, not only the pickles were Canadian that were tariffed, but lids that are Canadian were tariffed as well. So it became an awkward situation. I mean, the jar itself is essentially a good symbol of how integrated our food economies are between the two countries. And so that's when you realize that counter tariffs were a little ridiculous, because we were basically tariffing products, agri-food products that were grown right here in our own backyard, essentially.
So I guess the problem in some ways, I don't know if they'll reverse their decision, has been solved with the elimination of the tariffs.
It has.
Reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
Okay.
As of September 1st. Yeah.
So let's talk about.
But here's the other irony. I mean, we saw some grocers, I won't tell you which one, promote their own private label pickles, which came from India.
Oh. Huh.
So this is why the Bix situation was really a little ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love pickles. I'm a big pickle fan, actually. Putters.
What's your favorite kind?
Oh, I like a good, like a really good kind of sour with lots of garlic in it. Pickle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not a sweet pickle. But then if I go to eat a place like L'Express in Montreal, I like those tiny little sweet pickles too. Those little gherkins.
Oh, yeah. So we like sweet at home.
I like pickles in general. Last couple of things. So Dr. Pepper Curing buys JDE Pete's. You said we should talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. You heard the news a few days ago, right?
Yep.
And I started reading about the story, and I thought, this is interesting. So this company out of Holland is known for its coffee, of course. It's European. And here we have a company, Dr. Pepper Keurig, which merged 7 years ago. So it was created 7 years ago with this mega merger, attracted a lot of attention. And the idea was to actually merge the non-coffee stuff with the coffee stuff together. That was the idea, right? To create synergies, distribution synergies. It would make it easier for the company to gain traction in the marketplace, to connect different verticals. So I understood why they did that. But 7 years later, they actually make this offer onto this company. And in that decision, in the announcement, they actually mentioned that they would separate both coffee and non-coffee divisions, which I thought was interesting. So are you admitting that 7 years ago you made a mistake, or was 7 years ago a deal that would that allowed you to get to this new deal? And build a big enough machine to separate into two entities.
Interesting. Now
That's that. Yeah.
that's the coffee world though has changed dramatically. The price of
Oh,
coffee, so that may be driving some decisions around. We need to segment, to use another business phrase, right, to get
but
away from the
what
coffee
I
rate.
think is interesting about this case, and frankly, this fall, I'm waiting for Kraft Heinz to make the same announcement.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
do think something is going on there,
Hmm.
and we saw that with Kellogg's a few months ago. We talked about this on the pod,
Yep.
and so we're seeing major companies restructuring, fragmenting, because the market itself is becoming more fragmented.
Mm.
And let's talk about the big elephant in the room: GLP-1 drugs. Oh,
Hmm.
yes, GLP-1
Hmm.
drugs. I
Hmm.
was actually speaking virtually last night to a crowd in Christchurch, New Zealand. And of course, it was an agri-food conference, and I was asked to talk about the future of food, some of the things that we're seeing. And I was actually allowed to listen to other speakers from New Zealand before I spoke, and the GLP-1 situation came up over there in New Zealand as well, and they're seeing it too, because New Zealand is a huge exporter of food, so they care about what goes on around the world.
Sure, sure.
And so I do think that all of these things, inflation as well, are pushing companies to restructure,
Mm.
and focus more on niche markets, or
Interesting.
cater to niche markets a little differently and more precisely.
Interesting. Because so,
Yeah.
I mean, basically, you've got these three forces all coming together. You've got GLP-1s, you've got climate change, which is driving up commodity price, then you've got
Yep.
the rewiring of the whole global trading system. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised that companies are kind of taking a second look at the way they're organized and trying to
And
figure
the
out.
other thing, I mean, that what came up last night in Christchurch is obviously the Trump card. Um, as America becomes more nationalistic, I actually do think it will push the rest of the world to find new partners and trade differently as well,
We heard that at
right?
Seattle. We heard that over and
We
over
heard that
again at
it's
Seattle. Yep.
exactly. We're looking for new partners. New Zealand is looking for new partners. I would see New Zealand as a threat compared to us, because they're actually very trade focused. We're more trade reliant, but trade focused countries will actually be at an advantage as a result of what's going on right now, because
Mm.
they're 10, 15, 20 years ahead of us, where Canada, we're trying to become trade focus, and that's going to take a long time. Absolutely. So that's one thing going on, but I do think that as we see a world divorcing from America geopolitically, I do think that other nations will look at the market very differently, and that will impact CPGs like, well, Dr. Pepper and Keurig.
Well, we're gonna have a fascinating season ahead of us. One last thing for Canada here. Congratulations to the team, Bobby Flay's Bobby Burgers coming to Canada.
Yes.
So
Have you ever met him?
I've never met him. I've watched him, and I know one of our guests has actually beat him in the Beat Bobby Flay, Chuck
Yes,
Hughes.
Chuck Hughes. Woohoo!
So shout out to Chuck Hughes and Bobby Flay. Great personality, and just highlighted to me that there's expansion opportunities for
Oh yeah,
lots of
absolutely.
brands and new concepts. I don't know what precisely is new about his burger and fries and what makes him so great, but he's a great chef with an interesting cat, and
Yep.
maybe we'll get him on the pod. We've reached out. Maybe we can get Bobby on the pod. Kind of
Bobby, if you're listening,
speak
we
his
want
piece.
you.
Yeah, if he's listening, I don't
We
think he's
want you. We
listening.
love Americans.
Maybe Jim is.
We
Maybe Jim is
love
listening.
Americans. All
Yeah,
right.
maybe Jim is listening.
Exactly.
Listen, then this great episode. We're going to get back to what we call our regular scheduled programming with fantastic guests. We've already got a bunch lined up, and next week, in fact, Greg Mercer, the author of The Lobster Trap, great new book,
Yes.
investigative journalism. We've done the interview already. Fascinating interview. Great discussion with Greg. He's our first guest of the season. That will be next week. So we are back. We're back online. And thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Michael LeBlanc, and I am a consumer growth consultant, advisor, keynote speaker, and media entrepreneur. And you are?
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.